Hello everyone! Today I am making my awesome cloak that I'm going to be wearing at Comic-Con. When I post this, it's going to be this weekend, literally later on that day. For this, I designed it myself, but I got a little bit lazy with the pattern itself. I figured, hey, if someone else has already done the work for a poncho, I'm going to do that. So I bought a poncho pattern. But I am altering it a little bit. For example, this one is actually open at the front and it has like sleeves kind of sewn in. I'm doing away with the sleeves. I'm doing away with the open. I'm just sewing it straight down. And then I'm actually adding some like basically tabs almost so that I can actually roll up the front and then kind of have it in place if I want to. So I'm going to do it in two spots. I'm going to do it about right here. So I can do up one if I want, or I can do up both, or I can do up the other side, whatever I want to do. And there's going to be a hood, and of course it is going to match my Jedi costume that I made this summer. So I'm super excited for this. Of course, if worst comes to worst, I always have multiple Jedi robes too, so I'm not too worried. To start off with, I've already cut out the pattern itself, folded it back up just so I wouldn't damage it at all. But they're quite big pieces, so as you can see, I'm not at my table right now. I'm actually on the floor next to my table. So my table's next to me. You can also see an awesome costume piece next to me because I'm still working on that too. Let's get started. So something I haven't done a whole lot of on my channel yet so far is working with pre-made patterns. What I've been doing mostly is actually just making my own patterns and then either giving them to you or showing you how to do it. So if this is your first time working with a pattern, sorry, kind of. What you want to do though is you want to pay attention to all the markings on it. So things like these little triangles here, you can either mark it with a little chalk pencil, or you can actually cut a little V out kind of to the outside of the pattern, which is how I normally do it. Now, for this, I'm actually a size small. As you can see with all of my patterns, I actually cut out the biggest size. This way, in case I need it later on, then I still have it. Pinning it, though, we're going to go ahead and pin it to your size. So if you want to have it cut out at your small size, then that's fine. Personally, I prefer to cut the largest. The other thing you want to pay attention to as well, and I haven't done a lot of this in my video just because I'm working mostly with fleece, so there's really no such thing as a grain line. But on this pattern, it's a little bit faint. You're actually going to notice a grain line, and it's going to be an arrow pointing straight down on this particular pattern. Sometimes it's pointing basically both ways, sometimes it's pointing the other way. But you always want to make sure that you're placing your fabric along your grain line. One thing that I do want to stress is all of these tips that I'm giving you, they're just tips that I've found to make my life a little bit easier. I also have a lot of experience working with different patterns. Now, for obvious reasons, because of the changes that I'm actually making to this, there's a lot of things that I'm actually completely ignoring on this pattern. First one being the placement line for a fold, as well as the placement line for a pocket, and these sewing lines here for the kind of sleeve parts. I just don't particularly like the way that it went for that, and it doesn't really fit my own design, so I'm doing it that way. So once you have your pattern pinned, go ahead and cut. So I've gotten to one of these little triangle marks here, right here. Now this is the center front of my poncho, if you want to call it that. So I'm actually just going to cut right through because I'm not using that for anything. Okay, so I flipped my pattern around just so I can show you on this portion here, because this is actually your shoulder essentially. there is a little triangle marker here. Now this one I am using because it's actually joining the shoulder of it together. I'm just going to cut up to the first part of it, and then fold that over a little bit and cut away from the pattern. And then just cut a little line back again, down back to your line. Move that little triangle tab out of the way, and then keep cutting. So that's one way to mark it. Again, you can use a chalk pen if you want, or a chalk pencil. If you have, depending on your fabric too, you can also use a fabric marker. Now, because this is black, I don't really have too much that actually goes on it. So now this piece does say to cut 2. However, I don't have enough room from side to side to be able to match the grain line. So what I'm doing now is I've just cut out 1, and then I'm going to move my fabric over and then cut another one. Okay, so this is going to be my second piece of that first piece that I cut. Now, one thing you're going to notice is, wait a second, it's backwards. There's a reason for that. When you look at most fabrics, both sides are actually going to be very different. One's going to be the right side, one's going to be the wrong side. I'm using twill, so it's actually very, very obvious. So to actually match the grain line on the front of my piece as well as on the back, I actually need to take each piece and flip it over before I cut out the second one. Otherwise it's not going to match, it's going to look ugly, it's going to look terrible. We don't want that. So we're doing it this way. So I've just laid it out here. I'm going to pin it again and then cut out my second piece. This pattern is actually really, really easy. It pretty much is just 4 pieces and a hood. So altogether it's actually 6 pieces. I am adding some straps though to it, and I'm just going to be making those out of the twill as well. And I'm going to be adding some hooks to it. So I've placed my third piece here, which is, well, I guess technically my second, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna move it up a bit to try and save some material here. One thing to note, it's sometimes easier to actually cut out your fabric if you've ironed your fabric. Obviously I didn't, but it's something you may want to take note of. So we're going to go ahead and pin this in place. This one again has the triangle at the shoulder. It also has a triangle on the back. This is actually where the back seam is. So I will be cutting that one out. Again, you want to match the grain line. Oh no, we're backwards again. No, we're not. Ow. Again, this is all part of the plan. So we're cutting out the second piece of our back piece. This is actually the back. And of course we are flipping it because we are going with the grain line again. So here we go. So I do want to show you this particular triangle point right here. This one actually has 3 triangles on it. Now you'll see in some patterns we'll have 2, some patterns will have 3, and they denote different things as well. What I normally do with the 3, as well as with the 2, is I actually cut along the top as well, just so it doesn't take up as much room, and then cut back down to the side. So the same way I do with the single, but it's a lot wider. And then continue cutting. All right, I've got one last piece for this costume. So if you look at it, it's a hood. You're gonna notice the markings again. I actually have this one flipped inside out or upside down just because it actually places better on the fabric that I'm using, the way I'm folding it. Now again, you're gonna see the grain line. So you will actually need to match that up, and you want to make sure that it's the same way as the rest of the piece that you're making, because otherwise it's not going to match, it's going to look ugly. Back. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place. So this one, because I'm cutting 2, I'm just going to do it at the same time because I have enough placement for the fabric for it. So the back here is another one of those triple triangles. Cut out. And then back in. And then just across on that one piece there. Now the one difference that I'm doing for this piece in particular is I'm actually going to be just pinning these together. And I'll just do it once at the front and once at the top of the back of the head. Just because I'm lazy. So now that we're done cutting out our pattern, we can actually go ahead and sew it. The one thing I'm not showing here is going to be the strips that I'm going to be using to actually clip up the front of the robe, cloak, whatever you want to call it, poncho. I'm going to call it my robe. Anyways, I'm not showing that. They're going to end up being 1/2 inch wide. They're also going to be double-sided, so I'm actually going to do that separately because I don't know exactly how long I want them to be. I actually need to test that once I have this all sewn together. So I'll be doing that later. For now, however, it is time to get some rest, get some work done tomorrow, and then come back from work and get work done. So yes, my hair will be different when you next see me in this video. As my shirt be. We'll see. My hair's cute though. Now that I've cut everything out, I'm gonna go ahead and sew it. I went ahead and already pinned everything in place, just to save a bit of time. I started with the hood, partly because I want to see just how it's going to go and how it's going to sit. Now, I have worked with a lot of twill before, especially with Jedi robes, so I do know how it sits mostly, but I've never made this particular hood before. And it's nice and big. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the front pieces together down the middle, as well as the back pieces together down the middle. And then after that I'll make them all together. Or I'll put them all together. Okay, so now everything is sewn on the actual poncho itself, so it's basically a big circle. So if you're following along, you can actually put it on, and mine just kind of looks like a big shapeless black thing on my camera. But it doesn't look that bad. So far, I'm happy with it. Now I just need to do the straps, and then I'm going to do that before I actually sew on the hood, because with the hood is also going to be a hook and an eye, so that I can actually hook those straps from, they're going to come inside, and to wrap this up, you can see my shirt, I should have worn a different shirt, and then hook up here somewhere. I have to figure that out still. Also, let this be a lesson. If you're going to work on something black, don't wear a black shirt. So I've already pinned the hood on. I'm going to go ahead and sew it. I've put the kind of straps that I am going to use in there as well. I'm not doing... I guess I should do the hooks right now. Hopefully this works. I've never actually sewn anything with a hook on like this, so we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to try and hold my eye in place with some tweezers. See how this goes. You know what, never mind. I'm just going to hand sew it after. Alright, so I got the cloak and the hood. And now I have to figure out what to do is how long I want these. Finish them off and put the hooks and eyes on, and then I have to hem the front of the hood and then the bottom of that. Probably not doing the bottom on camera because hemming's boring. So I've essentially finished my robe. Got the hood all done up. If I can actually place it properly. I still have to hem it, but I'm not doing that on camera. And let's see how these work. So there's one hook, and I totally did these backwards, but from the way I wanted to, but whatever. There's my other hook. Great. So I can hook up the front of my robe, and or I can leave it down, or I can do one side. Have the hood up. I'm not gonna have any pictures of my cosplay in this particular video. You're gonna be able to see those later today when I actually post them from the convention. So be on the lookout for that, and who knows how many other awesome cosplays you'll see this weekend. I know a lot of people who are going. I'm excited. They're excited. Everyone's excited. And so we'll see you this weekend. Have a good weekend.